Hi, I'm Naomi Hall, and I want to welcome you to Mindset Makeover, Finding Your Power Through Fitness, Nutrition, and Community. There's a lot of information out there about health and wellness and fitness, some of it conflicting, some of it confusing, but in general, we kind of know how to live a healthy life, but we really struggle to do it. And a couple of the pieces that are missing in that puzzle are mindset and community, supportive community. So today I have with me Sophie Shepherd. And Sophie, sorry, I thought I had this pulled up in front of me. Sophie is the founder of She Talks Health and the creator of She Talks Health podcast. Sophie is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and NLP certified life coach who helps women transform their hormone, gut, and thyroid health using a combination of root cause functional lab testing, transformational subconscious mindset reprogramming, and diet and lifestyle science. Sophie and her team partner with you to create a holistic approach to bringing your body and mind back into balance. Her mission is to revolutionize the way women claim their health and slay old stories of being in sick bodies. Welcome, Sophie. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you, Naomi.
And I love the setting that you're in, nice and serene. It's lovely. You work in the functional space, which we're starting to hear more and more about right now, of functional medicine, functional practitioners, functional dietitians. Can you tell us a little bit about, is there something to the functional space? Is there a little bit of fad to it? What's the deal with the functional world?
Yeah, I would say I've been in this world since I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's 11 years ago now. My gosh, time. Wow, I'm about to be 34. So yeah, I think I was 22 or 23 and I found a functional medicine doctor. And here's what I'll say off the bat, like that functional medicine doctor 11 years ago, he saved and changed my life in every way that I can think of. And there's more to it, like there is almost with any one thing, right? Like we know that in order to live a healthy life, we can't just work out. It's bigger than just working out. We have to look at our nutrition, right? So I think where functional medicine goes really is really helpful is functional, meaning like root cause and looking for optimal health, in my opinion, is always the way to go, because we don't want to get to a place where we are dealing with autoimmune disease, Lyme disease, mold, parasites, hairs falling out, PMS, period problems, gut issues. Like we don't want to get to a place where we're managing our symptoms. We want to get, I think preventative, right? And that's where functional medicine can really come in handy. And then I think the other part of it is if you are in a place where you have autoimmune disease or all these symptoms, functional medicine can help you get down to that root cause from a physical body perspective. Is it a virus? Is it a toxin like a mold, or is it something where you need to take steps that you wouldn't know otherwise to like get down to the root cause and not just put a band-aid on it, but like really figure out what's going on for you. So I think that's where like functional medicine, the labs, all of that goes in the right direction and is really helpful and definitely a foundational pillar, especially in my business. I think what I've heard because I'm a functional medicine health coach, so it's a little bit different in that I'm a coach and not a doctor. And what I've heard a lot from clients, and this is to like no, I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus by any means. I think it's just that different people need different things. And so what I've heard a lot from clients, and certainly what I experience, is like when they go to a functional medicine doctor or even sometimes like a naturopath, they like might meet with them once, order some labs, and then get some supplements to take, not really understand why they're taking the supplements or why they're taking out of food, and they're kind of going on it on their own. And I always say, like, I paid $3,000 to go on my health journey alone. I love my functional medicine doctor for teaching me about my body and telling me there was a life worth living and I didn't have to just be on medication for the rest of my life. But he didn't like sit there and coach me and help me through it. And I think that that's where there's like room for improvement. So I don't think it's a fad. I think it's something I hope that's here to stay. I think there's a lot of still kind of Western medicine mindset about it, of like, it's almost like we're trading supplements for medications, which I just don't agree with. It's just so much bigger than that, right? To like actually see change, we have to dig a lot deeper than that. We have to look at our subconscious mind. We have to look at lifestyle, behavior. We have to figure out what motivates us to make changes. And that's a lot bigger than just like interpreting a lab and giving someone a supplement.
I like how you said that there's a bit of the Western mindset that's kind of in some of functional medicine of we're treating it a little bit differently, but we're still just kind of treating and letting you go on your way. Um, but I
Yeah, a little lack of follow through maybe, or
Mhm.
that care. I just think like information is not transformation.
Mhm.
And it's
Mhm.
a very rare person, and I guess I am that rare person who can just take information and take the steps and do it on their own. Like you say in your introduction, like a community mindset, those things really help us follow through with becoming the identity of the person who is well and who is happy and healthy. So I think that that's where kind of functional medicine falls short.
Yeah. So on your journey, I mean, I've had my journey too with like health and trying to get answers and finally finding the right combination of people. You found your functional medicine doctor, you got some answers, and then but you said you kind of ran this road on your own. And you're right, like rare is the person who can like do it on their own. Like and I'm very much a I could do it on my own kind of person, but there are things I can't. I just cannot. I cannot continue on my health journey, living my healthiest life on my own. So how did you make that work? Like what were some of the steps that you took?
I think I was just at the that point of like, I mean, not to be dramatic, but like either I do this or I'm not going to be on this planet. I mean, I was so sick by the time that I met him. I was, to give you like a picture into my life, like my hair was pooling like at the bottom of the sink. And I think you guys can see I have pretty beautiful hair. So that was alarming. The fatigue was probably the most concerning symptom. I mean, I would sleep for like 10 or 12 hours and feel like I had been hit by a bus. It's a really common symptom of Hashimoto's. I was having like diarrhea, constipation, bloating, gas, acid reflux all day, every single day. And that had been since I was 16 and now I was 22. So it was 6, 7 years of like chronic gut issues. I was quite honestly suicidally depressed at the time. And I didn't understand what was happening to me and no one could explain it to me. And I just like, I couldn't even eat, like drink water without pain, I mean, it just was like not a way to live, especially that young. So to me, it was like, I had been told it's all in your head. You're just depressed, just take birth control, just take an antidepressant, just take all these medications. It'll fix your problems. Just take this thyroid medication. And it didn't. And every time I would ask for more labs, I was told I was like an inconvenience. I was asking for too much. I should just accept things the way like the way life was. And it's like I feel like I'm 80. I'm 22. This doesn't make sense to me. So when I met him, the functional medicine doctor, and he actually let me talk to me for like 90 minutes. And he goes,
Mhm.
look, the reason that you have autoimmune thyroid disease is XYZ things.
Mhm.
And here are the ABC things you can do right now to feel better. It was just like, okay, I'm giving up gluten and I'm not going to eat sugar and I'm going to go on AIP for 90 days and I'm going to take the supplements for my gut. And it was just like, and I think also for me, because I was like not doing any of that stuff, that as soon as I started to make the change, I felt it like within 2 weeks, I felt better, which a lot of my clients even, it's deeper than that. There's like deeper rooted issues. So it like takes longer. So for me, I think I almost got lucky that it was like, if you think about like habit change, like you have to have a reward to keep it. So like
Yeah.
my reward was that like I didn't feel suicidally depressed anymore and I like could get out of bed and I didn't have pain and like those are really big rewards to kind of keep someone going. So I don't know, I think I kind of got lucky in a
Yeah.
sense as
Yeah.
these things go.
And I mean, you and I have talked previous to this. I so relate to your story because I really was in the same place of like, I was desperately ill in my 20s and being told nothing wrong, your labs are fine, it's all in your head. I don't know how many times I sobbed in a doctor's office because they told me I was fine. And I'm like, I'm 24. I feel like I'm 90.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
how long did you have to advocate for yourself until you found the practitioner that helped you?
I guess 7 years. And even after, I mean, I would love it to be like a story where it was like, yeah, and I saw one functional doctor and like everything was fixed. But like that's why we're on this conversation. It's not just functional medicine that does it, but my gut issue started when I was a teenager. And so all through high school, all through college, I was literally the person running to the bathroom. And I always say, like, I wish someone had intervened then. I probably wouldn't have Hashimoto's because,
Mm.
Hashimoto's autoimmunity, immune system dysregulations, all related to the gut. And I know I had parasites and yeasts and bacteria. And before anyone says, ew, gross, you probably do too. Okay, let's be honest. We're all coming in contact with them. And like, I was just at 16, I did like the endoscopy, I did the colonoscopy. So they go down your throat, they go up the other end. And they're like, yes, you just have IBS. Like, this is just the way your life is going to be. Here, take this proton pump inhibitor, which is probably the worst advice, by the way, that ever to be given, because there's no long-term studies on acid reducing medication, and that lowers your stomach acid and lets in all those bugs. So I think like what could have been like a round of food poisoning turned into like 8 years of IBS, and then it ended up being autoimmunity. So I didn't know in the first part of it to like challenge the doctors. I just thought like I had to accept that this was the way my life was because I was 16 and I was trying to be a good girl. I was trying to follow the rules and take the medication and put up with it. And it's just a narrative that is it's so wrong. Like, it's just so wrong. And so then when I got, all these other symptoms, and that was actually pretty short. It was probably a year. So relatively speaking, short time, where I went to the doctor. She diagnosed me with hypothyroidism. I took the medication, and then she was like, um, this is like, you have to take this medication for the rest of your life. And then I went back 6 months later. I was like, I need more medication. Like, I don't feel well again. She ran my thyroid numbers and she said everything was normal. And then she was the one that said I was like making things too complicated to ask for, like, do I have Hashimoto's? Do I have, like, can you run a full thyroid panel? And she's like, no, just like, I can't help you. She said, I literally cannot help you any more than what I'm doing. So
Mm.
I fired her. I mean, like, I was 22. And then afterwards, after the functional medicine, I had a lot of period stuff. So I work on period health for clients too. And I had an ovarian cyst that ruptured. I was in New York City. And I thought, because I had been told, like, you're just going to feel bad, I thought I was just having a flare of the IBS. For 3 days, I thought I was having a flare of IBS, but it was really my stomach was full of blood from the cyst that had ruptured. And yeah, it was horrible. And I like had to spend the night in the hospital. They're like, we just want to make sure you don't bleed out. And then I was like, okay, like, what do I do about this? Why is this happening to me? And they go, oh, it's normal. You just have to go back on hormonal birth control. I mean, that's the narrative is insane. Like, I just spent a night in the hospital. You can't tell me this is normal. And also, don't shut me up with medication.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
been crazy.
I think if there's one thing that I've learned, and I hear it in your story too, is if you don't feel good and something doesn't feel right, you have the right to keep pushing, and you can, as you said, fire your practitioner. You do not
Yeah.
have to stay with people who tell you you're fine and they can't do anything. If they can't do anything more for you, go find somebody else. Like,
Yeah.
you do not have to stop and continue to feel horrible. I feel so strongly about advocating for yourself in the medical system. And I was blessed to have people in the regular traditional medical field that I found finally that were like, you shouldn't feel this way, and we're going to figure it out. We don't have the answers, but we'll figure it out. And referred me to someone who was still in the traditional system, but worked not like the traditional system. He looked at me as a whole person. Can we hit on that piece of, like, it's more than just the medicine, it's more than just the supplements. What are the other pieces we've got to work on?
Yeah. I mean, so I guess the mindset piece of it, there's kind of two parts. Like, yes, there's the motivation part, right? Like, how do we make habits? And that's like when I say in my bio, like, I work on like diet and lifestyle science. It's like, okay, we know certain foods and certain things like sleep help us, and those are the foundations. And we have to get to a place where those are something we implement. But then if we all know that we should be sleeping, and we all know we should be drinking less, and we all know we should be hydrating, why is it that some of us don't do it, right?
Mhm.
So the mindset piece, it to me is even, it's like a lot of times it's more important because it will
Mhm.
inform the steps. So let me share a client example. I
Mhm.
won't share her name for privacy's sake, but I have a client who has, as a single mom of
Mhm.
4 children.
Mhm.
She was told repeatedly to be seen and not heard, that she was a problem. She was physically and emotionally abused by her partners, by her parents, her whole life. So if you have that experience in your life, what are you going to do with your own care, right? Like, why would you think you're worthy of being taken care of? Everyone else is more important. Don't question anything. Don't speak up. Don't use your voice. And certainly don't like have any sort of needs, personal needs for yourself, right? So this person has all these physical issues. And when I tried to go about it, because we had worked together before, and I tried to go about it with the more functional medicine thing of running a lab. Oh, here's all the things that are wrong. Take these
Mhm.
supplements. The mindset stuff for me came later.
Mhm.
She got better, but then she fell off the wagon. Why? Because she didn't believe she was worthy of
Mhm.
taking care of herself. So the
Mhm.
mindset piece is huge, especially for women. Most clients, most women that I work with are either so type A because it's unsafe to slow down, and that is a driver,
Mhm.
or they have the worthiness stuff. And by the way, I'm not saying that I'm immune to this. I've had to do some deep work. And that's the other part of, for me, where I would have wishy-washy boundaries because my
Mhm.
thing was always, I don't want to be abandoned and I don't want to, like, I want everyone to like me.
Mhm.
So if everyone was going out and drinking all night when I lived in New York City, guess what I was doing? Even though I knew better, even though I knew from my functional medicine doctor, I shouldn't do that, right?
Mhm.
So it's like I think we have to look at the motivations of why we do these things that we know don't support us, or why we don't do the things we know we should be doing. And I hate that word should, because we shouldn't be shoulding all over ourselves.
Mhm.
But it's all about getting into the mind of, where did this come from? How can I rewire this? Because I want to be the identity of someone who takes care of themselves. And what are all the blocks getting me there? If you want long-term health, I believe you have to do that work.
Mhm.
Otherwise you may like fall back on old habits.
Mhm. How do we start to do some of that work and start to, because I see the same thing, the worthy, I mean, I experienced, like you said, like I experienced the worthiness piece and all of that, and the type A driver personality, like I got it all. So I've had to work on that too. So kind of, where do you start working on those pieces of like, I'm worthy of taking care of myself, I'm worthy of slowing down so that I can live life.
Mhm. The first step is recognizing that you want a change.
Mhm.
A lot of people, I say on the first call, like, this might get harder before it gets easier, because facing your stuff is hard. And actually, if we just want to follow through with the same client, I had that conversation with her. I was like, just, I know you're gung ho, but like, just so you know, when you have to actually look at this stuff and where it came from, sometimes it's very painful. But if you face it, then you don't have to keep going back to it, you
Mhm.
know, in your patterning. So to address it, that's the very first step, a willingness to want to change.
Mhm.
And then there's different practitioners you could work with, or different ways you could do this, but I work at the level of the subconscious mind. So my experience with it is accessing the patterning that was put into us when we were from age 0 to 7, where we are perceiving what's safe. We're perceiving how to operate in the world. Think about that from a child's perspective, right? It's like, I love this example. Like, you're in New York City and you're pushing your toddler down the street, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, what are they perceiving from this like very short little
Mhm.
perspective of like what the world is? They're probably terrified. Like, there's so much going on, right? So they might perceive that to mean that like noise is scary and I want to be somewhere quiet. That could inform like how they are with people, right? So we want to look at like, where did these patterns come from? First and foremost, what are the new beliefs that you would like to have? And then there's a lot of different processes that I use. Probably my favorite one is called quantum time technique, where we access the subconscious mind and we rewire it so that you clear. It's kind of similar to EMDR. In my opinion, it's better. And that's not just my opinion, it's just from working with clients who've done both. You look at the event that formed the belief you have and the emotions attached to it, and you basically rewire your thoughts about that initiating event. And by doing that, you change every decision, every way you look at the same thing as it plays out over and over again. So we'll use this client as an example. So we did this and we looked at the emotion of shame and guilt. And when we went back to the event where she learned shame and guilt, because remember, guys, we don't just our baby selves do not know what shame and guilt are. Those are learned emotions, learned behaviors. When we cleared that up, which was a deep thing that had happened in her life, and we found new learnings, new possibilities, new way of looking at it, it was like magic. It was like all of a sudden, like the next time I talked to her, she looked 10 years younger. She looked 10 pounds lighter. She was like, I feel amazing. And guess what? And she just goes in and tells me all the things that I had been asking her to do for years for her health. No problem. Because all of a sudden she realized she could take up space and that she was worth giving to, but she had to clear like where she learned in the first place when she was 6 that she wasn't worthwhile. She had to rewire that. So I know it's not like a specific 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just can't, that's not like the way that works necessarily. But I think like looking for where am I doing things that I don't want to be continuously doing? Where am I people pleasing? Where am I continuously lacking my boundaries? And then maybe working with someone who can help you rewire the subconscious. You could also do it through like EFT, emotional freedom technique is another one. And those things you can find on YouTube. But any sort of access to the subconscious mind. I don't know if you're interviewing anyone on psychedelic therapy is like another way to do that.
Do have an interview on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything that, because the subconscious is where we're holding like all this information. It tells us how we are gonna be in the world. Right. So different techniques for different people. Right. And I like to use all of them.
That's awesome. And like, again, it's one of those advocating for yourself to find what works for you. Right.
Yes. Yeah. And one other thing I just want to say, because I think we gaslight ourselves too. Because like, right. Because like other people gaslight us. And so we're like, oh, learned behavior. Like that's what I should do. And so we're like, oh, I should just like mantra myself into feeling worthy, which like I did that and it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work is that it wasn't at the subconscious level. It wasn't addressing why I believed the other thing. And so we do just have to like have so much empathy and give ourselves grace for like, we were just existing on the planet and our brains could only perceive what it perceived and make meaning. We're the meaning makers of our life. And the cool part about that is if you can just take the judgment of yourself away and you can actually just sit for a second and realize that if I made it to mean that I wasn't worthy when I was 6, I can also change how I make it to mean now. So you actually have a lot more power than you think. You're not stuck in your ways. That's just an old saying. You can change anything in your life, anything, money, business, health, anything you want, you can change it.
I love that. It like we all, no matter how healthy or unhealthy we are, have mindset things that we have got to work on. And like I said, like, I'm working on some related to business right now and just realizing like, oh my goodness, like I am avoiding because I have these mental blocks that like I need to go back and work through these. So it's not just our physical health, though that's like foundational, but mindset work is so important for our entire life. But you also talked about community. Can we hit on that and just the importance of community in making successful change?
Yeah, I think this is something that's come up for me a lot as a practitioner that I didn't have as a person going through it. I didn't have a community. I mean, especially, gosh, 11 years ago, no one was talking about being gluten-free. No one had a functional medicine doctor. Like my family thought, like, I don't even know what they thought. They were like, what are you eating? Like, it was so, I mean, they were supportive, but it was just like so foreign. So I think, when you look at even they've done studies of like habit change, right? Like if you like even just beliefs, like there was this one study, I'm gonna mess up all the details, but it was like a drawing, right? And it was like that this stick was longer than the other stick, and it clearly was, and this, like, you had one person go in and say, yeah, the stick is longer, but then it's like the whole community around them said it was the other way. They were just lying. But like, he eventually changed it. He's like, oh yeah, it's totally like the other way, because he wanted to fit in, so it's like, if you have people behind you that are going in the same direction, it's a lot easier to stick to your convictions. And like I say, like, my community was drinking, so that's what I was doing. Like, I changed my, so as a practitioner, like, it's hard in the digital space. Like, retreats are awesome. I held my first retreat. That was like a transformational space because we were in community. We like let down our guard, and we were able to like cry and scream and share intimate things that like we hadn't shared with other people. So that is like, I think that's healing energy, like, to be in community. So yeah, it's tougher online, but I think like what we do is we have group calls. So we fuse like the physical body, which I would like lifestyle stuff, diet, with like the emotional stuff I was just talking about, the inquiry, the journaling prompts, the meditations, the hypnosis, to kind of like look at the mind and shift patterns. And then we also just started to infuse energy work as well, and working with our energy systems. And we do that in community 3 times a month with different practitioners. We have breathwork facilitator inside my program as well. And that has been invaluable, because it's let them see like they're not alone, and to share their own stories, little bits of it, and get support from not just me as a practitioner, but someone who's like sitting across from them on the screen, that they've been through the same thing. And we've been doing these like group challenges where it's like a hydration challenge or a protein challenge or something, where we're like doing healthy lifestyle things, and it's like they get a prize at the end. And the reason to do that is so that they get like, oh, I'm in community, like a bunch of people are doing this. I'm not just doing this on my own. And it just helps. It helps with the follow through of making a habit stick.
And that's so
I just
important.
think, yeah, I think it's really important.
Yeah, I
Right.
love that there's a prize at the end, because like our mind loves those dopamine hits, those
Yeah.
successes, and like earning something. And I know for me, like, I love a challenge, and trying to like earn something like that, just that's one of those driving things for me. So yeah, like when you have that, that just adds to it. Uh, this has been fantastic. I understand you also have a gift for our audience. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I made a gift. It's a free journaling prompt to kind of start that process we were talking about of like identifying
Mhm.
where are my limiting beliefs. So it's literally called Breaking Through My Limiting Beliefs. And while it is conscious mind, I think it gets you started, because obviously conscious, you're journaling with it, but it asks a lot of questions to help you to start to realize like, well, what do I actually believe about my health or my business or my money or whatever it is that you're trying to work on, and how are those limiting me, and like what would I want instead of this. And a lot of it I think would help people with like any sort of like self-worth stuff that they've got going on, that might be like limiting them from like starting a business, or limiting them from like starting their health journey, something like that. So I think it would be really good to just light a candle and put some like calming music on and answer these questions for yourself, so you can start to break through like what it is that's holding you back.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think, like you said, we have limiting beliefs in so many areas, whether it's starting our health journey, knowing we need to get healthier, but we keep going back to our old habits, whatever, or it's in business, and like you said, starting your own business. A lot of us have blocks towards that, of like not believing in ourselves, whatever it is. So taking some time to do this, I think I'm going to sit down and do this weekend, for myself, of just seeing, all right,
Yeah.
where are these blocks coming from? Because even in my health journey, I mean, it's been years now, but there's still things I need to work through. Like, no matter where we get in life, there's still room for us to grow.
Yeah. And even within the same limiting belief, it can shift too. Like sometimes you completely clear something, and sometimes you just find a new layer or a new level. Like in business, you might have like a idea of how many clients you want, or like the impact you want to impact, like 1 million people, and you get to 1 million people or something, and then you're like, like 3 million feels really hard. I don't know, like I'm saying these are huge goals, but like your goals shift, and so like new limiting beliefs come up, you're like, oh, I can't do that. Who am I to do that? And so this is something I hope that you can come back to anytime you have like a new level of a block. And then just keep in mind that identification is like kind of the first step. And then it's like, okay, so how do I really change myself,
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that you can come back to it again, because you're right. Like every time you level up, there's something on the next one you're like, can I really? Like, who am I to do this? So I think that's fantastic that like you can keep coming back to this. Now I have 3 just fun questions for you.
I love fun questions.
Yeah, I just like to end with these. What are you reading? What are you watching? And what are you listening to?
Ooh, okay. Reading, I'm reading Atomic Habits. Hilarious, of course. I'm also reading a book called The Gut Mind Connection, or The Mind Gut Connection,
Okay.
Brain Connection. I actually don't. It's some of those connections, which satisfies both of these parts of me. It loves the science and then loves the mind stuff. As I'm definitely a chronic person who picks up multiple books at one time and reads different things. So I'm reading those 2, and then I am watching reruns of Grey's Anatomy always. Always. And there was something I want to start watching. It's about the blue zones. Just from like a more I love the blue zones concept, that you live to be a centenarian, and what are those people doing? And by the way, I think they all have one thing in common, and it's community. I'm almost positive they all have community as like a common theme. Beyond what we're eating. Funny how that works. And then listening to I'm kind of in between stuff. My husband's listening to something called Unreasonable Hospitality, which has been interesting to listen to, about like just like how you could give more to create really unique and beautiful experiences for people and be unforgettable. So that has been interesting to listen to whenever I'm in the car with him. But I don't know, got any good podcasts?
So I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I'm gonna have to listen for that Unreasonable Hospitality, because that just intrigues me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just binged, like literally I just caught up on it. The Infinite Wealth podcast.
Ooh, I'm gonna type this into my browser.
Yeah, it's I don't remember. Oh, it came up in my business coaching. This whole concept, and it's a very different way to look at finances and wealth and building wealth. And you don't have to be wealthy to build wealth. Like these are normal people, but thinking outside the typical financial advisor information of like building your passive income and all of this to like leave a legacy and stuff. It really intrigued me. I'm like, I need to learn some more about this. So I loved the podcast. It's very educational, and they like tease each other all the time and stuff. So yeah, Infinite Wealth podcast. It's Anthony Faso and Cameron something. Can't remember his name.
Awesome. I'll definitely check that out, because I'm in my this going into 2024, I'm gonna be trying to work on some passive income for myself. Just because it's a lot.
It is, yeah. Yeah, so they really talk about how you can do it and make it work, and really these are the principles that like the Rockefellers use and different like super wealthy families, and this is how they're able to pass on wealth. So I found it really interesting. I was totally new to it, and I'm like, I don't know what I think about this, but now I'm like, I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, I like that. I like the name of it too. Infinite, like
Yeah.
so many possibilities of wealth, and everyone should have access to that information. So I love that it's in a podcast.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There's some books too. There are a lot of people that practice it's the Infinite Wealth Concept, IBC Practitioner. So yeah,
Ooh,
so
cool. Well, thanks for the tip.
for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna binge. That sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I want to thank you for joining us and sharing kind of some of your story with us and what you do with your clients, and the journal prompts that you're sharing with us. So thank you so much, Sophie.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was really fun. I love to share this information. I hope it just empowered someone to take the first step towards change, community, fitness, whatever it is that you're working on. And thanks for having me.
Yeah. And I want to thank our audience for joining us. And I can't say it, I can't word it strongly enough to encourage you to advocate for yourself. If you don't feel good, You have choices, you have options. You just have to advocate and find the right people. And maybe Sophie is a place for you to start to feel good, because you deserve, no matter what age you are, to feel good, to feel good in your body, to have energy. So both of us have experienced pretty bad health experiences, and I would say both of us feel really good now.
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad for both of us.
Bad. Yeah, it's pretty honest about how bad it was, I guess, today.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and like, yeah, I have a podcast, guys. I have like so many resources where you can get information to start taking action right now.
So check Sophie out, her information, her podcast. It's a great place to start, and just know, and because I've heard from too many people, too many women that have just been told this is how it is and this is how you're going to feel. And I want to tell you, you don't have to accept that. Do
Yes.
not. Okay.
Love that narrative. You don't have to accept it. Question everything.
Yeah. Question it. Fire your practitioner if you need to.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to do. And then check out the rest of this series. Sophie brought it up, psychedelics. I do have an interview in this series where we talk about the use of psychedelics and ketamine for those mental breakthroughs, and kind of breaking those patterns and how effective it is, the safety of it, when you're doing it in a clinical setting with a practitioner. So check out that as well. And everybody have a fantastic day.